Hello and welcome back to another dungeon guide with me, Meoni. Welcome to Sohr Khai, the ruins that once served as a great dragon Ratatoska's home. This dungeon is for level 60 players and is part of the main storyline in Heavensward added in patch 3.3. It has a restriction of 200 average item level and obviously the main storyline quests related to it to unlock it, and has 3 bosses within. The first of which is Chieftain Machlin. You'll know about this guy if you've done any of the Moogle daily Beast Tribe quests. This fight is all about ad management, as throughout the fight the big Moogle boss will spawn ads for you to prioritize, which have a chance to be resurrected if left unattended. When the ad known as Captain Machlin is alive and near the boss, he will attach a tether to the boss and make Machlin completely invincible, so he's your first priority as to unlock the boss's health pool again for damage. The ads throughout the fight are all Moogles with different abilities and classes. However, they have no real amount of health and do a lot of nasty AoE circles when they die. If you leave the Moogles inside the circles when they die, they will actually resurrect. To remove them from these circles, you simply do an auto attack or any ability and it will knock them out of the circles, much like the bombs in Brayflock's Long Stop Hard, if you can remember back that far. It's all about ad management, as I say, and not a great deal more than that. The rest of the fight is repeated until he dies. The second trial of Sohr Khai then is a boss called Hiraj. A red flying horse blocks the way forward and you have a very small, narrow lane to fight him in. This fight is interesting in that the majority of the damaging abilities can be completely negated by heavy healing, so it's kind of like a healing check. However, there are ways to avoid many of the AoEs on the fight, if not all of them. Firstly, let's talk about the destructible scenery on the fight. Either side of where you stand in this narrow passageway are walls. These can actually be knocked down in sections by abilities the boss uses. When they crumble away, however, they reveal purple electrocuted pools. You do not want to stand in these, as it creates a nasty dot on your character that does a lot of damage over time, and it cannot be dispelled. His next ability is Jump. This move makes the boss completely untargetable, and this is a notification that he'll try to stomp down on your party at one end of the room. You simply run to the opposite end to avoid the majority of the damage, running away from the location marker. After he lands, he will perform a powerful charge dash ability, much like in Robot Unicorn Attack if you ever played that game. You cannot avoid this and it has a knockback. However, you'll take more damage the closer you are to the center, but that's much more preferable than being knocked into the electric pools, which will definitely kill you if you are low HP from a charge, and if you are near the center, you will be. Quasar is his other ability. This is a line AoE that you can actually aim. It's not marked on your character, but when he faces you, you can kind of aim it by positioning your character, and then where the boss will do this beam attack in a direction you're standing. You could accredit most of the destructible scenery to this actual move, but if you do get targeted, you can position yourself that the move will go just down the center of the room, down the corridor, and not actually take out any walls, which would be ideal. Finally, Cloud Call is his ability that will get most people annoyed. This ability gives one random party member a purple marker. When this marker fades, you will place a thundercloud where you were last standing when it faded. This cloud is something to avoid, as standing under it will give you a horrible vulnerability debuff and do significant damage over time. So you want to aim for placing these clouds away from your party and in a good place. A good place would be near any destroyed walls, as your team will be avoiding these areas anyway, ideally throughout the fight. That's it really for Horsey McHorseface, so let's move on to the last boss, LvL60. This guy is the reason we're all here, and it's time to prove our worth in this last trial of Sohr Khai. LvL60 as a fight takes place on these floating platforms. These are all periodically destroyed throughout the fight, and it's basically all about movement between them to avoid damage and obviously death if you were on one when it was removed. It's worth noting, as a healer, you need to be one platform away from the tank at any one time to still be in range to heal the tank and everyone else in the room. It's DPS priority on this fight for them to switch to ads that are on other platforms and to go and kill them when they're up. If you do end up using the same platform, however, as someone else, you'll need to spread out on that platform. Otherwise, if the boss does Holy Breath, which is an ability I'm about to talk about, you'll do double damage. Holy Breath then is his first ability. It's a pulse that targets a random player. anywhere in room. You can avoid this completely by jumping from that platform to another, but it's very likely that you'll get hit in the course of a fight, so don't panic too much if you are hit. Just make sure you're spread out away from the other person, otherwise it's going to be pretty bad news. The second and more important ability is one that happens periodically throughout the fight based on his health pool. This actually is his destruction of the various platforms you're using. This is very noticeable, and it will target 2 platforms at any one time, destroying them and removing them from the fight. The jump pads, however, that you see in certain directions even work if there's a huge gap where platforms used to be in a direction, so don't be afraid to use them. They will jump more than one platform you imagine them to, which is something that I didn't realise when I was doing this fight. This part of the fight is all about trying to lure the destruction to far off platforms. Ideally you want to make it so that the majority of the platforms up towards the end of the fight are near the boss himself and not spread out too far away. The other and last important thing to mention is balls of ice and a red dragon ball that flies around the room. These are more things to try and avoid by jumping to other platforms when you see them heading towards your location, but taking 1 or 2 in a fight isn't the end of the world. Just try not to chain them back to back or you'll probably die. The fight should end with only 1 platform remaining. High DPS will make this fight a hell of a lot easier, but it's entirely possible to last it out if you need to by clever platform handling. Congratulations on clearing Sohr Khai. If this was helpful, leave a like below and a comment of what you'd like to see next. Until the next dungeon guide, I'll see you next time.